It's time for some more PyPico stuff. I think I'm going to just forget about Simon now. Done way too much on Simon, but I want to think about some other games. Yeah, well, I don't know yet. We've established that we don't have a lot of room for graphics in here, so I thought about using a game that maybe has some procedural based graphics in. But of course, the PyPico itself doesn't have a lot of graphics routines really. I mean, if you see what I've got on the screen at the moment, here's a little sketch I've just set up to begin to play about with this. Let's just connect first. So I'm using version 1.16 of the Pimoroni build on here. Display. So that shows me all the routines that the Pico Explorer display can do. We've looked at some of them before on the Explorer, but really we've not got a lot for drawing things. We've obviously got the set pen for the colour. We've got a circle, we've got a pixel, there's a rectangle and a pixel span. So not really a lot to play about with, but maybe let's just fiddle with a few of these. Let's zoom in a bit so we can see the screen. So this is just a routine we've seen before. I'm setting a couple of colours just to play about with. I've done an update function which I can just call whenever I want to just update the screen. So let's try some of these commands that we've got. So let's do circle. So it'll be display circle, and I think for circle you have an X and a Y. So let's try 100 100 for the X and the Y, and then a radius. So let's set the radius as 50. Now if I've got the syntax right, let's run that. Whoops, what haven't I done? Got to set the pen first, haven't I? So display set pen purple, then everything I do after that should be purple. Let's try it again. Oh, don't need that. Stop, run. And now I've got a purple circle. So I can probably do rectangles easy as well. Display rectangle, and let's set it a little bit. Well, let's set it this at the start of the screen. So it begins at 0, 0, which is the top corner. And I'm just going to say it's 25 by 25 for the width of each side. So will that one work? Yeah, so a little square that we've got at the top. Then there's a line as well. So this is, pixel is easy if we can see it. So if I do display pixel, maybe where have I got? I've got 100. Let's take that to 200, 200. And that would just be a pixel. If we can see this, quite hard to see. Is there a little pixel there? Well, no, there's not. I missed out the D. Let's try again. Okay, so there should be a little pixel down there somewhere. 200, 200. Am I covering it up? I mean, that's going to be hard to see. But then there's this other thing called pixel span, which is the line drawing part. So let's start that at 200, 0, which should be somewhere over this side. Draw it out by a width of 120. So let's try that the other way around. So that's 0, 200, 0, 200. Let's just try that again. So yeah, so there's my line that's worked there. But we can only do horizontal line. That's all we've got. I was thinking for a vertical line we could probably use a rectangle to do that as well. So I've got that one rectangle at the top. Maybe for a vertical line. So 120, 0, and it'll be, what is that, height and width? So one of these has got to be 1. Let's just try that if I got it the right way around. No, that's just doing something right across the top there. So it's the other way around. So if we do 1 and 25, that's another way that we can draw. It's another way that we can draw a vertical line. So we've got some things, but if I wanted to draw a triangle, which is the next sort of primitive that I can think of. I mean, triangles aren't simple in a way because they go across at an angle, but we've got no way to draw an angle on this. We'd have to do it by working it out and plotting the individual steps, I think. So this is how I think the screen's working on the Explorer. So this is your Y axis here, this is your X axis here. So that becomes 0, 0. This is both 240 by 240. So that's going to be 0, 0. This should be 0, 240. The middle should be 1, 20, 120. This is going to be 240, 0, and this is going to be 240, 240. So that's sort of the extent of the screen that we've got to play with there. I'm going to keep this so that I don't get my axes mixed up. So let's just say I wanted to draw this triangle here. So what I think is a simple triangle on the screen somehow. But how am I going to draw that? So I started to look for some diagonal line drawing algorithms, and I came across a guy on one of the forums who'd done a routine for doing some of the missing lines. So he'd done a vertical line and a horizontal line, which of course we know we've got. Maybe he did it before Pimoroni had done the initial releases. But he did a diagonal one as well. So I've got some of his code here. I'm not really going to grab a load of this, but it's this bit that's really interesting. It's got this def for a line. In fact, if I want to run this whole thing of his just really quickly to show what it's doing, I think if I run that, it's probably going to fail. Yeah, because this is original, so it's still got that backlight in. So let's get rid of that. There you go. So some circle routines. We've already got a circle. He's even done some little graphics as well, which are quite cool. But anyway, I don't really want to fiddle about with that. I just want to play just for a couple of seconds with this diagonal line drawing. It needs his horizontal and his vertical as well as his line. Let's just paste that into here. So what I want to call is this, I think, line. Let's just go directly from 0, 0. All the way across to 240. All right, so yeah, there's a diagonal line. So I mean, it's not surprising because his demo worked with a diagonal line. I think what I'd like to do, actually, we've got X and Y all the time, and I'd rather call these points. I think it's nice to just have them points, because you're always going to have an X and a Y for any of these, whatever I'm drawing. Let's create a point. So put the classes up here. So class point, which is objects, because it's a class, better use capital P. So let's do the init first. So this is something like def init, do send a self in as usual, and then an X and a Y. That all I need? Oh yes, then I need to set those. So self X equals X and self Y equals Y. So that should define a point class. But something else I saw that might be an idea to do a way to print it out. So I think it's called, is it called str, something like that? If you've got the string there, and we only think doing self. I'm going to make a weird comparison, which might be right, but in Java, you've quite often you have a toString, which allows you to do a text-based representation of your object. So I'm assuming this str is the same thing. I'm returning something point, which is what it's called. Then just put these two merge fields in. I don't know if these are called merge fields, but these are the two things in the string that I'm going to be replacing. And then what I'm replacing is self X and self Y. Let's just run that and see if it crashes. It doesn't. So if I do P equals point, and let's call it, where should we do? Let's say 200, 200. And then if I do print P, hopefully that's my point class. Yeah, so down the bottom there, point 200, 200. So we've got the X and the Y built into that point. So now when I'm calling some of these things where we need an X and Y, I'm just going to send a point in eventually. So to modify this line, I'm not actually going to modify it. I'm going to do a new definition, and I'm going to call it point line. And what are we sending in? Well, we're sending a starting and an ending. So I'm going to say P1, P2. In that, I'm going to call the line function that's below, which belongs to someone else. But that's going to be P1X, comma P1Y. So that's the X and Y. So all I'm doing is calling this down here and breaking it out from the point P2X and P2Y. to y. Let's use this point here, 200, 200. Point line, point line. Point 1 is going to be P, and point 2, let's just copy that again. Point 2 is going to be a different point, so let's just make this 100 on one of the things. So I'm still sending in 2 points. One's in a variable, one I'm creating on the fly. And let's see whether that should give us an angle coming off at another direction here. Let's just get rid of these to begin with. Well, I'll just delete those for the moment. Run it. Okay, yeah, so it's pulled that line off there. It's not necessarily diagonal, but it's drawn it down there. How would I make it diagonal? Oh, of course, I need to have that different, don't I? So let's set that to 50, shall we? And try that. Yeah, and there's a more, is it more acute line? I can't think of the word for it, but anyway, there's another line going off at a different angle there. So that's drawing the line using the same functions, but it's drawing it, I'm now sending a point in for the x and y to represent each of these sort of values here, which might be useful. I don't know. I'm going to put those back. What was that? Let's set that to 50 or something like that, and we should be able to see a line going off weird as well as the other bits now. Yeah, so there you are, that's a diagonal line. But how are we going to turn this into a triangle? Well, this is easy, isn't it? It's just going to be 3 lines. And so the first one is easy. Is the point going to be 0, 0. Then the next one is 120, 120. Line, that should have drawn that line. So I'll copy that line. Let's do the third line as well while I'm there. So this one is going to go from 120, 120 to 0 to 40. So this is going to be 120, 120 and 0 to 40, and then finally this is going to go from 0 to 40, which is down there, back to 0, 0. So let's send that, and now you see I have a very rough outline of a triangle. So that's done that triangle. Yeah, so we've got a triangle, that's cool. So I think what I'll do now, what I want to do is I want to create a triangle class. So I had the point class, so let's just grab that triangle, and what does it start with? So it's not going to be an x and a y, but we're going to have a point 1, point 2 and point 3. So we're expecting points coming in there. And this is going to be very similar, so this is going to be 0.1 equals 0.1. So no difference from the other one, but this is going to be now a triangle, and let's do another merge field, and this is going to be self P1, P2 and P3. So let's create a triangle. T equals triangle, and now we should just be able to send the 3 points in. This is the first point, comma, this is the second point, and this is the third point, 0 to 40. So that's defined that triangle for us. I mean, it would be nice to have a draw command to that triangle that forced it to update on the screen. We can sort that out hopefully. But if I run this now, and what we need to do, so we need to do print t. So now we've got a triangle with the 3 points down the bottom of the screen coming out. Not here, of course, yet. That's the first bit of playing with triangles I'm going to do. In the second video, what I want to do is drawing a filled triangle. So I found a page on rasterization of triangles, and I'm going to take the Java code from that, convert it into the MicroPython code to try and make this triangle filled in and see what's involved with that. So I hope you've enjoyed this. There is a gaming point for this, which may or may not work in the future, but anyway, I thought it was interesting to look at some different algorithms for drawing lines that you don't already have immediately on the PyPico in the Pymoroni stack.